Hi everybody, welcome back to the PTC podcast. I'm here today with Amy Todd, who's old friend of mine from back in a different life, old uni student who now outranks me in the realm of the medical world, having taught her everything she knows, at least about anatomy. Amy, welcome, hello.
Hello.
How are you feeling?
Good. I've just done a class at the PTC, so I'm good to go.
How's your heart rate?
A little bit on the higher side.
Why?
Recovering from the class.
Okay, very good. So how would you introduce yourself for people listening?
So I'm a physiotherapist and I'm the therapy lead at DISC, which is a sport injury clinic in JLT. I'm also the program director and head coach at the UAE All-Stars cheerleading team.
So how did you end up lead physio at DISC?
At DISC JLT branch specifically. So I've been working there for 2.5 years now. And yeah, I guess just over the course of a few years, things just went that way.
So we were together in uni, Amy fresh out of mum and dad's house.
Correct.
And I was the granddad of the group, boring, not wanting to go out ever. And and then Amy got to 23 years old and finally understood what it was to actually not want to go out with 18-year-olds.
It took me a while, to be fair.
Yeah, and then you did a master's in physio where?
Correct. So I did my first degree with you at St Mary's University, which was a BSc, so a bachelor's in sport rehabilitation. From there, I had my last internship, which was at a football club called AFC Wimbledon back in the UK. Which I worked at for a few years. I went on to lead their academy medical department, and then I decided to go back to university, and I went to Brunel University in London and studied a master's in physiotherapy. From there, I continued in football, so I worked at Fulham Football Club, Crystal Palace Football Club, and then on to Chelsea Football Club. So I was at Chelsea for 5 years before coming to Dubai, and I started off working with their men's academy, so their under 21s or under 23s, moved over to the women's academy and eventually the women's first team as well. So that was where I was just before Dubai. Moved into working for the military in the UK, and then was offered the job at DISC, and that is what I relocated for, and I've loved it ever since.
Just happily ever after. So why did you go back to do physio? Why did you decide to go back into education and go and do the master's specifically in physio?
So sport rehabilitation is an excellent degree. It really covers like the MSK part of physiotherapy. So it covers your back pain, your knee pain, your ankle pain, all of your musculoskeletal sport injuries. But what it perhaps doesn't delve into quite enough is the more medical side of things in terms of cardiac issues, neurological issues, respiratory issues, and things like that. So I was progressing really well in football, but because that degree was not quite established to be medical enough, they kind of stipulated that in order to be a first team physiotherapist or to work in the first team, you had to be a physiotherapist specifically. And all that does is the physio degree really ticks all of the boxes of being a chartered physiotherapist, which unfortunately sport rehabilitation doesn't quite meet, although actually through all of my experience, it's very, very specific to what you do on the football pitch, sport rehabilitation rather than physio, because actually physio degree is very medical. You're working in hospitals, you're working with old people, you're working with people who have had cardiac arrest and stroke. I actually did a lot of work in intensive care and respiratory. But of course, on the football pitch, you do need to be prepared for those unexpected events. So a sudden cardiac arrest or some sort of respiratory arrest on the football pitch. So I was sort of pushed into that direction if I wanted to continue progressing into the first team.
So that was when you say they stipulated you need to be a charter physio, they being the FA?
Correct,
yeah. Or they being the football clubs,
yeah.
But right at the top, the FA?
Yeah, so if I wanted to work at clubs such as Chelsea or any of the kind of Premier League clubs, you had to be a physiotherapist.
Yeah, because everything you said there about the respiratory, the pediatrics as well, is that in that, or is it a different level?
Because I did a master's, it was 2 years instead of 3 years. So I suppose women's health, pediatrics. There are a few smaller modules that perhaps weren't delved into as much in the master's, but if you do the bachelor's, you'll do all of that to the full extent.
Yeah, see, that's the stuff that I had no interest in. So that was the ticket for me to not go down that road, despite also the fact that I was 26 with the degree and I needed to get working.
Yeah.
So you committed then to 2 more years in education to follow the pathway of football. Why did you leave football?
I loved football. I did it for 10 years, all in all.
Was it 10 years?
Well, I started at St Mary's, obviously with their kind of...
Oh, yeah, the lads.
Yeah, the sports teams there. And then, so I started while I was doing sport rehabilitation and then all the way through to 10 years later. So parts of it were unqualified. The most part of it was qualified as a sport rehabilitator and then as a physio. So you can kind of count the years through. I loved it. It was obviously really, really good fun. I got to travel. Chelsea Football Club is amazing. It's so well integrated that whether you're working for the academy, parts of the first team or the men's first team or the women's first team, they're all on the same campus, and they have an amazing medical team. So all of the medical team from all of the departments will meet. So you'll be sitting with, the men's first team physios and the medical director, and we will sit and go through every single player across the entire club. So you'll be talking about a 10-year-old girl along with, Eden Hazard and whoever else was in the first team back then. So really, really cool. So much opportunity. Learned so much. Absolutely loved it. But I think I kind of hit 30 and was like, you know what? I want some days off by the pool and to just chill. So, amazing job. But obviously, as part of a medical team, you're really highly demanded upon. So you might get to the off season, the coaches, the players, everyone will have, 4 weeks off. But on the last day of the season, someone will sustain a ACL rupture, and the physios will be in every day throughout the off season, over Christmas and whatever. So obviously everyone often needs a physio, especially in sports. So it just become a very demanding job. Sometimes I wouldn't have a day off in 14 days, which was great for the 10 years that I did it. But after a while, plus COVID had a bit of a dampener on things. Obviously things slowed down a little bit over COVID. The women's first team are amazing. They were on for the treble. They won the league. They won the FA Cup and the Continental Cup. But we also had a Netflix documentary going along at the same time. But just before the league finished, which is obviously May time, COVID came in March, and squashed everything basically. So it was a real dampener. And they were able to continue the FA Cup, but it was back in the back end of the year. So, yeah, I think just around that point, I thought, time to do something new. And I wanted to just enjoy a new experience. And, Dubai was on the horizon.
They didn't finish the season.
If I remember, I think they kind of appointed the scores based on where they were at. It was a bit of an awkward
And who won?
end. Chelsea. So they did win the league, but they never got to complete the treble until things continued and they could actually play the FA Cup, which was, well past when it was supposed to be.
Oh, so they won the treble that year?
They did, but it was like when, Liverpool won, it was the league, it was, you were at home, no one could actually celebrate. It was all a bit, not the same. And
the Chelsea coach, is that the lady who's just taken that job in the States?
Correct,
the very famous, what's her name?
Emma Hayes.
Emma Hayes. I haven't quite got my finger on the pulse of women's football this far away, but sort of tuned into some of it. That's good for her. She's apparently very good.
She is amazing.
Was she there when you were there?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
She's been at Chelsea, I don't know, ever since they started, I believe.
And now she's going to go to the States. It's the Team USA head coach job, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So Chelsea obviously losing their finest females you were obviously the first out the door, started the slippery slope. Right, so you did a little bit of time at the military, and then you came out here.
Yeah.
Why Dubai?
Well, I had some good friends who are already out here, one of them sitting across from me. So obviously when we were at university, we lived with our good friend Jez, and he sort of planted the seed a long time ago. He grew up in Dubai and was always trying to get us to come out. And I think, I can't remember how long you've been here, but obviously you came out. I visited quite a few times, and then it took me a little while to get to grips with it. But by the time we both moved out, our friend had moved back to the UK, so I don't think he was very happy with us. But here we are, we're both here now. And I mean, Dubai is just such a good option, right? It's not too far away from home. I knew other colleagues, even from Chelsea actually, who had made the transition as a physio. I knew it was quite easy to get set up as a physio, and I loved the sunshine. We were kind of debating between, say, Canada and Dubai, but the visas for Canada and things like that are very, very challenging. And Dubai was just a real easy switch. And I was really, really lucky actually. I went back to an agency that I worked at a long time ago, and I just said to them, look, I'm looking for a new opportunity. If you know of anything in other countries, that's kind of what I would be looking for. And a pure coincidence, he was like, oh, there's a job going in Dubai. Would you like me to put you forward for it? And then, it snowballed within, I think I was offered the job within a couple of weeks. So
Yeah, I do remember it was very quick.
Yeah.
And then you came out in whatever May of that year, which is the worst time to come out.
Yes.
Yeah, welcome to the heat.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved in the cheerleading then, like the UAE cheerleading squad?
So I have a long background of cheerleading back in the UK. So I started when I was around 10. But back then, cheerleading wasn't very developed or progressed at that point. So I kind of lingered around the same kind of level for, I don't know, till I was about 20. I went traveling, and then when I came back, I was like, oh, let's try one more time. And again, very lucky, I happened to live very close to the best program in the UK. And I trialed for them, and quite quickly managed to get into their World Championship team, and got to represent England as part of this program in 2016 and 2017. So cheerleading became a really, really big part of my life. And this is not sideline cheer. This is competitive cheerleading, which is much more athletic than perhaps people have in their mind. It's not kind of like the Dallas Cowboys who sort of do their professional dancing on the sideline. This is the tumbling, the lifting, and the highly skilled side of cheerleading, which perhaps we don't see as much of in the movies. So that's kind of where my passion very much lied back in the UK. And then when I came to Dubai, I was like, oh, Dubai has everything, of course. They're going to have cheerleading. And I could see on Instagram that there was a UAE All-Stars team, but I couldn't get in contact with anyone, and the team had dissolved over COVID. So I was very disappointed when I came to find out there was no cheerleading here. But obviously I came right off the back end of COVID. I managed to eventually get in touch with some of the old guys that ran it, and they had all left the country and got married and moved on and weren't interested in it anymore. But I was able to get hold of the WhatsApp group, and it just built from there basically. So instead of cheerleading, I joined the gymnastics club at Aspire Gymnastics. I just started working on my tumbling skills. I met another girl that had a background of cheerleading, and then we slowly kind of got a few people together. We went down to Queen Park, and there were like 4 of us just doing some cheerleading skills. And then, they bring a friend, next one brings a friend. Before we know it, we kind of had to bring it into more of a team. And then we are now, I think, a year and a half later, and we have a fully fledged team now. We have around 25 athletes. We have males, we have females, predominantly females this year, but last year we had a lot more males. So you can have either a co-ed team, which is male and female, or an all-girl team, which is female, but we're open to kind of catering for everyone. We have our adult team, we have our youth team, which is ages 7 and up. We're really keen to open like a even younger group, so from 5 to 7 if we have enough people attending. And we've actually just opened a team in Ras Al Khaimah now, at one of the community studios there. And we are beginning to develop within the schools. So super exciting. We're looking to start having after school clubs. We have workshops in schools. We have people coming over from America who are, very, very well known, highly skilled coaches and choreographers who can put on some really cool demonstrations for the schools and things like that. So it's snowballed. There is no cheerleading at all in the Middle East because perhaps people's idea of cheerleading with the dance elements and things like that maybe don't always adhere to the cultures here. But we're really keen to show that our sport can be, enjoyed by everyone all over the world. I think there's around 118 countries that attend the Cheerleading World Championships, but as of now, we have an invitation to come as the UAE, but no one has ever represented within the Middle East. So we are, very pleased to be able to offer it now to everyone, and we really look forward to eventually developing uniform and kit that really adheres to all, cultures. We have the links and contacts through America, all over the world really, an ability to be able to change the score sheet to really adhere to every country's cultural limitations and things like that. So we're really, really desperate to get more locals involved, get more of everyone involved in the Middle East, and put forward a Middle Eastern version of cheerleading. You have the American version, the Canadian version, European and Asian version, but as of yet we don't quite have the Middle Eastern version, so that's what we're really keen to push.
So a bunch of stuff there. That's very impressive. Let's go. So I want to talk about what the difference between the cultures are firstly, but after this. But firstly, let's explain if you can. So what does a competition look like? So like you've got your teams. What are they doing? What's a team do? What's your training generally? What's your training like? Because you talked about tumbling, acrobatics, and gymnastic stuff. But like, if I'm sitting in the crowd, what am I seeing?
Yeah. So it's. I suppose it follows a similar system to, say, gymnastics, more like the floor element. So we have like a 9-panel mat. We'll have 25 to 32 athletes on the mat at one time, and we will perform our very best routine. So a routine will be around 2.5 minutes long. It will comprise of predominantly stunting. So you'll have perhaps 3 or 4 people on the bottom lifting one person up in the air. We can throw them, we can release them, they can twist, they can flip, lots of different skills based on different levels. So you have level 1 through to level 7, and it's based on a scoring criteria. Certain things are illegal in certain levels because they're too advanced for level 1 as opposed to a level 5.
Certain things like certain stunts, certain moves.
Yeah, so you're not allowed to do a free flip. You have to hold on to one hand in one level, whereas another level you can just throw them and they can do a back somersault.
So you're basically throwing somebody up in the air.
Correct.
And you're catching them.
Yes. Yeah. So that's kind of probably the largest element of the routine. So you'll have say 5 different sections within the routine. One of them will be a pyramid, so you'll have like not the classic pyramid that we kind of think of, like 5 people on hands and knees, all on top of each other. It's more, holding in the hands, holding up above your head, up to maybe 5 stunt groups attached, flipping around and things like that. So that's kind of the stunting element. You have tumble and non-tumble divisions. We don't call it gymnastics as such, we call it tumble, but of course it follows gymnastics skills. So you've got your back handsprings, front handsprings, round-offs, whatever it is. You'll have lots of different combinations of those. We also have like a jump section, and we have a small motion section. So similar to elements of dance, but we kind of have a slightly different version here, which is more just motion based, which similar, basically.
No pom-poms.
No pom-poms. So
How many times a week do you say that? Only when I'm around.
and we also don't shout out different letters
You
either.
don't
Give
cheer
me a
for
K.
You don't cheer for the quarterbacks.
We do not. So we don't. There are two elements of cheerleading. You have sideline cheer, which of course has its place. You know, we do enjoy supporting different runs and different events here to a degree, but that's not our main focus at all. Unfortunately, in the Middle East, because it's not developed yet, we don't have cheerleading leagues. We don't have local competitions to go to.
So how does it work in the UK? You have that? You have leagues and local competitions?
Tons. So
every week there's something to go to? Every month?
Every couple of months you'll have lots. Oh, well, yeah, so many, because it depends what region you're in, whether you're in, you know, obviously with the UK, if you're up north, if it's down south, wherever, there's lots of different local leagues. Then you have the national championships, so you have the big ones in Nottingham and Bournemouth and things like that, where everyone comes along. So when I went to the World Championships, we had to get a bid from the national championships. So the top, I think, 5 teams so you had to win the national championship to get the bid.
So you have to win your local one, then the regional one?
I think the local ones are kind of like the warm-ups, and then you can all, you know, just go to the national one, but only maybe the top 3 from each division will get a bid to the World Championships.
Right. So what does a bid mean?
And that they will give you a partial paid bid or a fully paid bid to go and represent England.
Oh, the cheerleading organisation will help financially?
Correct.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So then the World Championships, you have the all-star rounds and you have the kind of national round. So you have like literally Team England, which is the national team, Team USA, whatever, will go to the national round. Ours was the all-star round. So all of the teams that got the bid in England go through to day 1. And then this is in America and Florida, in Disneyland, actually, in ESPN. So the top 5 teams in England will compete against each other. There might be more than 5, sorry, say the top 10, and then the 5 will go through to day 2.
So you go all the way to America to compete against the English teams?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Then you get through to day 2. And then I can't remember if it's 3 or 5 that then go through to the world's round, and then you're competing against everyone in the world. And then I think you then get through to day 3. It's a little while ago since I did it, so it might have changed.
Yeah.
And then you get into the final round, which is against everyone.
So is there 2 parallel competitions? There's the country Team England.
Yep.
And then there's the clubs, like
the all-star round.
So how do they pick Team England? Do the best from the clubs go and play for Team England?
So you
what do you call it? Cheer for Team England?
Trials again. So everyone all across England will come to one camp and try for Team England. Yeah.
So if you're good enough, you leave your team and you go for Team England?
No, you do. You still do your
all-star
teams, and then they'll have like a camp every weekend, a month, where you do your Team England.
Very cool. So then, taking that back to here, what's the difference in the cultures that you're trying to mitigate? Yeah,
so I guess we're just really trying to empower women here and everyone really to just get involved in activity for a start. I think we do sort of struggle to attract the locals. I think because obviously no one here has ever done cheerleading, they don't know what to expect, they don't know what it involves, they may not feel confident. We've had people that come, and obviously there's other people in the team who actually, most people have started from nothing and are now very, much better at it, but by the time that beginner comes, they perhaps feel a little bit intimidated because they may not have a background of doing lots of sport in schools, and they may just not feel so confident about it. I think we're very able to cater to kind of the cultural limitations in terms of clothing and what to wear and things like that, but I think people perhaps maybe are a bit nervous about that, and that's what we really just want to. We almost want the feedback from the locals so that we can do everything we need to cater for them. So what's the uniform looking like in the competitions that are currently established? So at the moment, our uniform is leggings with a skirt on top and a t-shirt. Okay, but if anyone feels uncomfortable wearing anything, then we want to adapt as needed. We have links with different uniform companies that are, really keen to make a Middle Eastern version specifically, whatever that may look like. So as soon as we have locals in the team, we can literally design the uniform exactly how they would want it. So yeah, I suppose maybe more of the European countries, America, Canada, they tend to wear a skirt, but that skirt will always have, shorts underneath. You have a lot more teams going into shorts now, so they'll wear shorts. Actually, in Asia, they have a unisex kit, so the boys and the girls wear exactly the same thing, which is really, really cool. So it's completely adapted to, the countries. They used to have more like a crop top and shorts or skirts, but at the World Championships, that's no longer allowed, and stomachs will always be covered.
Okay, cool. So then, let's say you have the full selection of uniforms created and made and ready to go, and people can get whatever. Is there any other, you mentioned something about the scoring system. Is there a scoring system related to that you're trying to change?
There is. So I think elements of dance are a little bit borderline in this culture. Some cultures aren't happy to do the dance element, and that's okay. We don't have to have a dance element within it, and our style of dance is very kind of strong, athletic, and more like motion, I would call it.
But you could even just do an Arabic style dance, couldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like an actual
100%.
Bring it full circle and go, look, we're going to do the movement, but it's going to be more Arabic orientated.
100%, and that's why we're so keen to move into that direction. Unfortunately, most of the team are expats at the moment, so we do have a local involved, and hopefully she'll come down and start bringing some more of her friends, and people will feel more comfortable coming, because I just can't emphasize it enough. We are here to be the Middle Eastern version, but we just need to kind of learn exactly what that is and adapt to the Middle Eastern way. So we would love the feedback to move it into that direction, and if dance elements are not something that we want to be part of the score sheet, we have the ability, because we have the contacts within the World Cheerleading Federations, that we can actually have a all-girl section that is, doesn't include dance. We want to include the Middle Eastern way now.
I forgot, there is a aspect of some of those teams do have men who lift and hold and support and catch the girls, eh?
Correct.
Yeah.
So again, it's down to feedback. We've had locals who are happy to come and be in a stunt group with the guys, and if not, then they can be in the all-girl stunt group, and equally, if they just do not want to participate in exercise and activity with males within the environment, then we have the ability to have an all-girl squad. And at the moment, our team is all-girl.
So no need for me to volunteer. Okay, cool. So then, when do you hope to have a team in a position to be traveling to the World Championships in Florida?
So I already feel we have the potential within our team. We have some really, really good talent. We are ready to compete internationally. However, the limitations are more around having a federation, an association, and having the backing, I suppose, from the Sports Council and the government to an extent, to be able to represent internationally as cheerleading within the UAE. So that's our biggest limitation at the moment. However, we are in contact with the Sports Council, and we have been told that in order to build our federation and association, we need 3 locals within the team. So we have now got 1 local on board, but we do still need 2 more in order to be able to set up the federation and association, which we are confident we're going to be able to do this year. And we would like to attend the first ever representation of the UAE at the Cheerleading World Championships next year, so
That's
2025.
Cool. Yeah, very cool. So it's only really a thing that you said you're a year and a half old. So it's almost just like, look, you haven't just got around to that stage yet. It's not. Are you finding any barriers or any massive pushback or any issues getting all those signed up?
Not especially. It's also worth noting that the more athletes we have, the more tailored the teams will become. It's not like we have just one team. We can have a co-ed team, we can have a all-girl team, and they can all be different levels. So some people may feel a bit intimidating, thinking, oh my God, I'm not ready to go to the Cheerleading World Championships, but I want to come in as a beginner. And then they could be part of the level 1 team. And then we can have a level 2 team, 3 team, 4 team, and the World Championships is ideally 5 to 6. Okay, so
5 to 6 teams in the World Championships?
No, 5 to 6, level 5 to 6.
Oh, right.
So yeah, I think we've had really a big influx this year of athletes. I think just Dubai in itself is a bit more of a transient country. You know, people are kind of coming here, leaving. We've got a lot of people who are perhaps school teachers who are coming here for term time, but then going home for the holidays, which is totally fine. We've now adapted our practices so that they're only during term time. So yeah, I mean, no. So far, so good. And if it wasn't for the Federation and Association, we would have competed internationally this year.
Yeah. Well, it's just about getting through the to-do list, isn't it?
Correct, yeah.
Getting your stuff in order, because as much as it's easy to get a visa and stuff here, when you're doing the setup side, there's just a tick box of to-do list you need to get through setting up anything here. So
correct.
Yeah.
I think obviously a big limitation will always be funding. Obviously it's expensive to go abroad, and especially if we have to fly when normally you'd be able to do like a local competition. So obviously we have lots of different nationalities, different visa processes can have limitations and not. So we have those types of limitations, but eventually, you know, we hope to get some more sponsors backing from the government to be able to give everyone, you know, an equal opportunity to be able to enjoy cheer as well.
Where's the nearest competition, like geographically? Asia? You
have Asia, Europe, but actually, again, we have the buy-in from the States. We have lots of people really keen to push things here. So we'd even like to set up a local, the first local competition here in the UAE. Invite people over. Actually, we have so many school teams now. We have started doing the first ever schools cheerleading competitions. We have our next one in January, so in a couple of weeks actually. And then there'll be another one towards the end of the school year. So school cheer is really starting to boom, and we're starting to get those competitions in the calendar. As of the moment, we are the only adult cheerleading team, so we don't have anyone to compete against at the moment, but I believe there are more forming.
And how many schools are there in the competition?
I think initially we have about 9 or 10.
And are you judging that? Who's going to do the judging?
I'll be judging it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And who's doing the coaching?
All our fabulous school teachers.
Oh, so your adult team are also out coaching?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So a lot of our team are school teachers, and they have their own school teams.
Oh, that's cool. And would they have longer? How much experience do they have in cheerleading?
I think it completely varies. Most of them are going to have a few years of experience back in their home countries as well. But honestly, I mean, it's just about having a passion for it. It's not hard to learn, especially if you're just starting off with the level 1 skills. All of our athletes can perform level 1 skills now, so it's just a case of sharing it with the kids. And remember, stunting doesn't have to be the biggest element. It's the other tumbling elements, the jumping elements, the motion elements, and most importantly, the biggest part that everyone enjoys about cheer is the teamwork, the camaraderie that you have, working together towards a common goal. And it's just so great when you start achieving those skills together, and that's what I think everyone enjoys the most.
Yeah, because it's actually harder than you imagine. Like, 'cause as you know, and as a few people know, because we've joked about it, like I helped you out in uni.
You did.
With whatever event that was, and I didn't go to many practices because it was such short notice.
Yeah.
But in the practices, you have to throw people in the air.
Yeah.
And then you have to catch them.
Yeah.
So there's 4 people on the ground, and the 5th person is about to be launched. And if somebody pushes a little bit earlier, too much strength involved, the person doesn't go straight up and comes back down. They go off at an angle.
Yes.
which means they're coming down at the angle, so everyone has to move.
Correct.
Which is obviously a problem when you're incredibly taller than the rest of the people involved in the little group.
That's why you go to the back, though.
Yeah.
Tall person's at the back. As long as you've got, the correct coaching, you're never gonna.
Yeah. There's risks with everything.
Yeah.
There's risks when you go let your kids play rugby. There's risks when you get on a mountain bike. But it's not even what you're looking at. It's not as easy as what you see, because there's you're responsible to catch that person. So that person's shot off to the right. The whole group has to go. The landing is not going to be perfect now. So someone's getting an elbow to the head on the way down. The girl who's landing is going to be caught.
Yeah.
It's the people on the ground who get an elbow and a knee on the ear, and then I've stood on your toe as we're shuttling across, and you tripped me up.
That's why it's all about experience. And in a stunt group, you should have at least 3 other people in the team that know what they're doing, right? So even if you have been sort of chucked in at the last moment, you should be able to rely on the other 3 people knowing to pull the right shape, to keep their elbows in, to catch. So actually, even if you trip over your own feet and fall on the floor,
there's 3
they'll
more
still be
to catch you.
safe with the other guys.
It's more about the dodgy elbow you get.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, playing rugby, you come home bashed and bruised. It also kind of gives you a little bit of a reminder that to do stuff, you have to risk a little bit of ouchies here and there.
Yeah.
Do you get many people through your physio realm? Like, do they talk to you about it, and do you recruit people that way?
Trying to think back. Probably not, actually. I'm trying to think if anyone has transitioned over. Probably not so much. I think most people that have come to cheer have probably had some sort of experience in cheer before, but I'm working on my people coming through though.
Recruitment. So what kind of patients are you seeing in the clinic? Like, who's your bread and butter?
Yeah, so I see.
You're a bit of a runner as well, which is something that we can talk about if you want.
Yes. I tend to see. So with my background in football, but most injuries in football are going to be lower limbs, so your hips, your knees, your ankles, a bit of backs here and there, a few necks here and there, not too many shoulders unless you're a goalkeeper. So most of my experience is predominantly lower limb, and very much my specialty will be return to play. So I don't tend to see too many of the desk injuries, the necks and the backs. Of course, there are plenty of those that do still come through. But more specifically, my experience is more towards athletes, particularly runners, gymnasts, because that tends to be my where my experience lies as well. Just mainly return to play. Probably most specifically knees. Working in women's football, unfortunately, there is a very high injury rate of ACL ruptures, and this can be very well related to different phases of menstrual cycles and different differences between men and women, effectively. So I do tend to work with a lot of ACL ruptures, men and women, as well as your hamstring strains, calf strains, ankle sprains, and all of that stuff.
So what's the deal with, why is there more ACL tears in women's football?
So there are lots of physiological, hormonal differences between men and women. Women, we know that their hips tend to be wider, so they're going to have a bigger Q angle at the knee. Lots of different changes there, which can lead to different pressures on the knees that men perhaps don't have. But the biggest changes that we see are through different phases of the menstrual cycle. So at different points, particularly the phase 4, so the week before you come on your period, obviously women's bodies are preparing for childbirth, things like that. So our ligaments tend to become more lax, our neuromuscular control drops off, and can unfortunately leave us a little bit more susceptible to ligamentous injuries.
And is that factored into women's football practices and training?
Yeah, very much. So again, a big highlight or bonus of Chelsea was that they were the first women's football team to consider menstrual cycles. So every morning, every single player would have to complete a form that tells us how well they slept, what their mood's like, along with any menstrual cycle symptoms that they have. And we would literally track day in, day out where they are in their menstrual cycle. So if they are in phase 1 as opposed to phase 2, as opposed to phase 3, some people are a little bit more sensitive and may have...
So phase 4 is just before?
Yeah. Phase 1 is when you're on your period,
yeah.
And then you kind of go. Some people don't necessarily notice phase 2 and 3, and then 4 is the one where you feel a bit sluggish and a bit off.
So
perhaps.
2 and 3 is the middle weeks.
Yeah,
Just and that.
Yeah.
So what can happen then? Just full training, full.
Yeah, so it's really hard because different people will have different symptoms in different phases. So you're going to be ovulating more around that middle part. Some people don't even follow phases because they got endometriosis or they're on different contraceptives, things like that. So it is very challenging, and some people, even with a normal menstrual cycle, just do not, they have a 40-day cycle as opposed to a 30-day cycle. So it really is like not a cookie cutter thing at all. Some people feel great on phase 4, some people feel awful on phase 4. Phase 1 is meant to be our strong phase, so day 1 of your menstrual cycle is kind of our go phase, but some people feel really, really rubbish on that day. So you really have to tailor it to the individual. We unfortunately had an athlete who I think had 3 ACL ruptures, and during certain parts of her menstrual cycle, she was a bit older, and she's like, no, during this time, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do this.
So what kind of thing would she not do? Just like the high intensity stuff, or would she sit out completely?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe won't push quite as hard at different points of the cycle where the rest of the team would. Maybe she would need to spend longer with the movement coaches beforehand to really, really work on her neuromuscular control at certain points, because we know it's going to be lacking there. Other people totally unfazed by it, don't want to know about it, just crack on. It really, really does depend on the person.
I mean, that's difficult if you've got a cup final in the middle of that schedule. Exactly,
and there really are instances where maybe not a World Cup final, but perhaps so. Some athletes will just be like, look, unfortunately, it has fallen at this point, and I don't want to, they wouldn't play them because their risk of injury may just be too high, or they're just way too sluggish, and they just they can't perform, unfortunately. But with all of this specificity now, you can really work to improve your symptoms. We were very fortunate to have a menstrual cycle specialist and nutritionists that will really help with anti-inflammatory diets and lots of different recovery techniques, so that you can really be on top of your menstrual cycle and emphasize your gains at different times. It's not that we shouldn't feel like, I'm in this part of my cycle now, so I'm rubbish, I can't do anything. Actually, that might be the part of the cycle where you're going to be really good at endurance, and actually we want to push endurance, whereas this is now our strong phase, and now this is the time to hit the weights hard. So I'll just throw in there that there is a really interesting app called Fit R Woman, so FIT, the letter R, Woman. For anyone that does want to follow their menstrual cycle, they can track it in there, and it gives some really, really cool tips, what to eat at particular times during this part. This is what's going on in your physiology, because honestly, I had no clue until a couple of years back. And this is the type of exercise that you can do to maximize your progress at this point.
That's cool. That's very cool. Because I know it's not a thing that's commonly discussed, especially as a male trainer. Obviously, training females half the time, if not probably more. It's not a conversation I have very frequently. Sometimes I have it with a couple of clients, but it's the same client. She's very open about it. She's like, look, this is the situation. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm not doing today. Okay, let's move through it and do do as much as we can. But I don't know about other people. There's a lot of females trainers that we've never ever spoken about it once.
Yeah.
And I don't know what conversations happen with the girls here. So.
Mm-hmm. That was one of the things back in Chelsea. We kind of just tried to normalize it as much as possible, because 100% as a girl talking to a guy, initially like, oh God, I don't want to talk about that. But actually, even with our youth female youth players, which is so important, because especially for the youth, because we'll have all sorts of problems where they are training too hard and they're just not eating enough, and they're going to have a misbalance of their nutrition and not fueling enough for the exercise that they're putting their bodies through. You have something called the female athlete triad. You can end up, lots and lots of athletes will have amenorrhea, which is where your periods stop. If your body is not in well balance, the first system to shut off, not forever, but in that moment, is your reproductive system. And we have lots of 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds who are having no periods at all. And that,
so what's the triad?
Female athlete triad.
Yeah, so what are the components of that?
It's to do with kind of your energy, your bone mineral density, your fueling, basically. And we actually do have some adolescents that end up with stress fractures because their bones aren't actually strong enough because of this female athlete triad. So yeah, we had to really try to normalize it, because yes, we do have a lot of male coaches within the academies, and just try to normalize it as much as possible, that, you know, menstrual cycles aren't a big deal and we should all be able to talk about it freely.
Yeah, I'm sure amongst the girls they'll talk about it, but when you're looking at a 49-year-old ex-Chelsea international player who's male,
yeah,
so it's maybe not something you're too happy with just saying. But yeah, okay, that's cool. So how do you prepare your training for because you're a big runner? How do you factor that into your training? Like, do you back off and push and relax, or do you just...
Not hugely. I don't personally find like a massive difference either way. I have been looking a lot into the intermittent fasting for females, and how actually intermittent fasting is very different for men as opposed to women. And it's really, really interesting that actually women have to eat within certain windows in order to feed the progesterone within your body in order to ovulate and be able to have menstrual cycles. So I've been looking a little bit into that, but otherwise, no, I just train to feel. If I'm feeling good, I'll train, but for me, it's not too much of an issue. The biggest thing I say to all of my patients, and I follow myself, the biggest way to prevent ourselves from getting injured is we really have to make sure that we balance all the variables of training. So we all like the sport, we all like the strength, we all like the cardio, and 9 times out of 10, I'll tell you about the 2 reasons why people tend to come in to see me. And the first one is people just don't have the right balance. So yes, we go into the strength, we go into the cardio, we go into the sport, but we're really not interested in the mobility, the tension release, the foam rolling. So with my 2 marathon training blocks that I've done, I'm so worried about getting injured that I really, really have just as much emphasis on my recovery as I do as my push. And I think most people, 9 times out of 10, will really just be focusing on the push, the strength, the breakdown activities. And they're just not balancing it enough with the rejuvenation, the mobility, the yoga, the foam rolling, the Epsom salt baths, the things that build our body back up and get us ready to push again. So within my training, I will have my sort of 4 breakdown sessions, my runs, my strength, whatever they are. And by breakdown, I mean, obviously, as we know in the gym, we break our muscles down with small micro tears so that they build back bigger and stronger. So that's kind of your running, your strength, whatever it is. But the days in between, I'm going to have my low level activity, my Pilates, my yoga, my foam rolling, and really, really focus on the recovery to enable myself to push again. However, most of my clients will break down on a Monday, and then again on a Tuesday, and then again on a Wednesday, and aren't able to replenish their body ready for the next push. And every time we work out, every time we run, every time we do sports, our muscles are going to get stronger but tighter, stronger but tighter, stronger but tighter. And most of us aren't addressing the tension with the foam rolling, addressing the mobility. I personally really, really encourage yoga. It's going to move your body through its full range of motion. whilst building strength at the end ranges of your joints, which in my opinion is much better than static stretching. So I really encourage everyone to keep in those yoga, that Pilates, the low level foundational strength and stability, so that when we go into the gym, we're able to build muscle on top of a strong and stable framework.
So the two are not giving the recovery enough time. What was the other one?
So the second one is periodization. So making sure that you build yourself up gradually. Okay, so the number one thing, make sure you balance all your variables. I like to look at 4 quadrants. You've got your cardio, your strength, but don't forget the mobility and the tension release. If you think about an elastic band, we're going to stretch it through yoga, but as we let go, it's going to ping back to the same coils. The foam roller and the ball release is going to help to get out the coils. And I also say, if you think about it, if you don't continue the mobility, we do ourselves a bit of a disservice in the gym, because you're only ever going to build strength within the available limit. And if that limit is getting smaller, you're not going to be able to build the strength through end ranges of motion. So that's my number one tip. And the second one is periodization. So especially in January, most people will come back with new goals and enthusiasm, and I want to do this, and then they're going to go into paddle 6 days a week, or I don't know, Barry's boot camp and sprint for 6 days in a row. And this is how we tend to get injured. Unfortunately, the body really likes to be loaded annoyingly slowly and progressively. And I would always encourage people to, even in week 1, let's just do 1 session. Week 2, maybe we do Monday, Friday. Week 3, and build in a session each week. Obviously, if it's strength related, as long as you're changing up your body parts. So 1 session's an upper body, 1 session's a lower body, then we can periodize that way. But that would be my biggest thing, is to make sure it's a gradual load while making sure that you're balancing it with enough rest, recovery, and recuperation.
Very good. So what are you training for now? You've done the marathon. How did that go?
Yes, went very well, thank you. So I just recently ran the Dubai Marathon. It was going very, very well. This is my second marathon. I was super happy with my splits, and everything was going amazingly, actually. I was well on for my sub-4 target, which I've been working towards. As I was coming up to the end, so the 40k mark, I got a little bit excited and sort of ran as fast as possible. And unfortunately, the sun just was not for me, and I had a bit of a dehydration moment. So as of, I think it was around 700 meters before the finish line, I had a bit of a blackout moment. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish the race. And that being said, my body felt amazing. I had fractured and dislocated my toe back in July, unfortunately kicking the corner of my gym at work. So I've been recovering from that. I did nearly throw my own training variables out at the beginning of the year after my first marathon, which is a common mistake for everyone. I think once you've done a marathon, you're on such a high, you want to keep up the mileage. But because I was very busy with cheerleading, I wasn't quite doing the shorter runs that I know I should have done. We can still get it wrong ourselves. And I nearly gave myself, or I did give myself, a bit of ITB syndrome. So I was managing that too. So as of August, I had my 4-month training block. The training block went really, really well. I felt amazing for the run. I had no knee pain, no foot pain, no back pain. I found that when I did London, actually what I suffered from the most was my back pain. And from then I've really learned to keep up my Pilates every week to keep my back strong enough. And as I did the Dubai Marathon, my body felt amazing, back, legs, but unfortunately dehydration got the better of me. When I ran the London Marathon, I noticed that actually my back was my weakness. Obviously I'd spent so long working on my legs and my stamina and things like that. But actually my back was what was giving out and was really giving me discomfort. So I learned from the London Marathon, I'll always keep a block of Pilates in my week, Pilates, yoga, to keep that foundational baseline strength and stability and mobility. So as of Dubai, I felt really, really good. My back was great. My knees, my ankles, my body felt amazing. I had no cramping, but unfortunately it was dehydration that got me this time. So you learn something new every race, and this time it was about trying to balance the fluids. But for me, it was hard. Obviously, it's not that hot in England. I'm not used to running from 7 in the morning to 11 in the morning in the Dubai heat. And a lot of my training block had obviously been at the cooler times in Dubai, so I'd been training in the evenings and the mornings. So while I was taking on fluids during the race, I was taking on electrolytes. That push at the end, I think, obviously it wasn't balanced enough, and that would be my next learning curve. Get the dehydration right.
Yeah. So you can try your second marathon again in the future, whenever you're ready. All right. So where can people follow you, get in touch with you if they want to hear more about your amazing physiotherapy stuff?
So my Instagram account is Amy AMY _physiotherapy _DXB. And if you'd like to follow the cheerleading account, it's UAE _All-Stars _cheerleading.
Anybody can join.
Yes, we are open to everyone.
Especially Emirati females.
100%.
All
and
right.
males.
And males, yeah. I vouch for it. It's good. It's not easy. It's way harder than it looks, but it's fun. All right. Well, thank you, Amy. You can tell us in more detail about your second marathon when you finish it next time. Bye.